nobody, but eventually they'll all be watching it. So good evening, everybody. This is Ree Pearson in sunny Whitley Bay in North Tyneside, and we are live in Be Kind, No Excuses, our ladies group. Actually, it's not just for ladies. It's a group about toxic relationships, and we do have lovely men in here because we do have male allies. And if you're watching us live, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching us on replay, or if you're watching us on YouTube, or anywhere that we end up in the world with this video, thanks for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. Tonight, I would like to introduce everybody to Dr. Anne Whitehouse, who is joining me from, where are you joining me from, Anne?
I'm in Leicester, in the UK.
In sunny Leicester, which is about as far away from the seaside as it can possibly be,
yes,
in the United Kingdom. So at least, what, 2 hours away from a beach, whichever way you go in?
Thereabouts. Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us this evening. Now, Dr. Anne, it would be lovely if you could tell everybody what it is you do, because obviously we're here to help people with your support. But I'll let you introduce yourself, and you can tell people what you do.
Okay, so I am what I call a female power alchemist, and that means I literally teach people how to get their power back, how to transform anything which is, a trauma, an abuse, a toxic situation, and get their power back. And the whole point of my work is that power is more than just a belief in your entitlement and a belief in your freedom. It's actually an energetic thing which we lose in these negative experiences, and we need to know how to get that back so that we not only can live our lives the way we want, but we feel safe doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And we talked earlier about confidence, and I find it really interesting because you call it power. Now, in the world that I work in, which is about abuse in intimate relationships, we talk about power and control. So an abuser will take power and control from their victim. So I guess from the process that you work, you are giving the person who's been victimized the ability to take that power back.
That's exactly it. And there's something to understand, that the difference between what I call authentic power and mere force. So force, people call it power, but it's not power. It's a very negative thing. Authentic power is power based on love, on respect, on consent, all the stuff that matters. And we can be in a male dominant version or a female dominant version, and they have different qualities, but they're both very positive. And what we, when we're in a toxic situation, nobody is running what I call authentic power. The one person has had their power crushed and suppressed, and the other one is working on force and oppression, and there's no power, real power anywhere. And what happens is that the person who is being abused or suppressed, they've literally had this the positive power taken away from them, and this has a very very specific effect on how they react, how they feel. So one way I look at it is that they are living in a perpetual fight or flight, fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
So high stress, high anxiety, not feeling safe to speak up, all of those kind of symptoms. And that is indicative of the fact that their power has gone. And so the thing is that in order to get your power back, and my process, it's actually called pulling your power back, because that's how you get yourself out of this subconscious fight or flight. That needs to be, you need to rebuild that energy within yourself so that you can have that real intrinsic strength and resilience, and so that you're projecting into your life, not only with that person, with everybody, this this value, this worth, and and the credibility, the respect, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, an intimate relationship, you need to rebuild that energetically. So that's what I do, and it literally is, it's a pulling back of the power that's been taken away from you.
Okay, that's fascinating. I find that really fascinating. And how do people, like, because the relationships that we have, obviously my main stuff is intimate partner abuse, but there are so many other relationships. So
Exactly.
do you have people who come to you to talk about their parents or their siblings?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way I came through into this field was through very toxic relationships in my career when I was working in engineering. Being a young woman, this was about 25, 28 years ago, in a very male-dominated place. That was my experience of that. But I have women working, coming to me who've they've had abusive intimate relationships. It could be, I've had situations where there's been very unpleasant incest within families, abuse from fathers, uncles, brothers, situations where there's a sort of narcissist parent, alcoholic parent, drug user parent, all of that. And of course, situations where people have lost their power through being raped, being abused, harassed, whether that's somebody they know, somebody they don't know. In terms of the energetics, what happens to them in their power, it's the same thing that needs to be put right for them to then go and live their life.
Wow. So can you give us an example of part of the process that you use with people? Do you do one-to-one sessions? Do you do online? Do you do group therapies? How does it work?
Oh, I have all of that. So the first thing is I have my book, the Pull Back Your Power. So this takes you through the process. And so although my way into it is through the professional world, you can totally project that onto whatever relationship it is. In fact, I've had a lot of women contacting me, and I was initially quite surprised that they were contacting me, telling me about abuse with the husband, with the partner, and they were totally applying everything that I was teaching about the professional world, and it was exactly the same situation.
Yes.
So I also do one-to-one. Some situations you do need to have one-to-one attention, but in other cases, you can do a great deal to rebuild that power foundation by working in a group. I don't do what I would call coaching. I am teaching the ability, and I'm teaching the techniques, or technique is too weak a word really. I'm teaching them to really activate the ability to weave the power in their lives again, because that's what we need to do. We need to not only get our power back from those situations, we need to then know how to control the power, how to stop it happening again, how to set up a situation. If you've got a difficult conversation, maybe you've got to go to court, maybe you've got a custody battle to deal with, maybe you've got to be interviewed about what's happening, and you need to hold your power in those situations as well. So it's all the same thing. It's all about learning how to literally change the power flow so that when we are in these difficult situations, it doesn't just drain from us like water going down the plug hole. And that's an analogy I use quite a lot. Women are, unfortunately, we are conditioned to give our power away, not in our head, because we know what our entitlement is, but on this more energetic level. And if you find that you're in a situation and you're feeling anxious or stressed, or you're not able to speak up and voice your opinion, or you're feeling that you're under attack, those are clear signs that your power has drained away. And we can often blame ourselves. We'll say, maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not confident enough, I should be more assertive, I should be an empowered woman. We said this stuff to ourselves, but our power has actually been drained away. It's like our energetic lifeblood. We can't be assertive and hold our power verbally, and if this is being drained away from us. So that's what I teach in a whole range of settings, depending on what the requirements are.
Yes, that's amazing. I'm really interested in obviously the gender dynamics of it, because that's what I do. But it's really fascinating that you're saying that you have to pull your power back.
Right. Would you like me to explain what's going on there?
Yes, please.
Because this is key. So to give you a little bit of story, I left my academic engineering career in 2001, and I was burnt out. I had chronic fatigue. My anxiety was sky high, the works. And I started working on my mind. Why had I reacted that way? And I did all the belief work, reprogramming, all of the subconscious work, and very soon I wasn't just working on myself. I had a practice. I was helping other women. But what happened was, I thought, why is it that I'm still getting this reaction when I go into a certain kind of conversation? I still feel the anxiety. I still can't speak up. I've done all the belief work. Why is it? What is still wrong? And I realized I was still in this fight or flight. And at this point, I'd realized that the patterns of how we respond, the things that are making us feel not safe, feel that I have to submit in this situation. There's this. I could talk for hours on this.
I know. I can feel your passion about it. I can feel it.
It's like a whole hidden operating system of society. We have our conscious belief, and then we have all this undercurrent telling us a completely different story, and the mismatch makes us very unsafe as women. Okay. And one day, I can't even remember what it was. Yes, I can. I was booking my car in for a service. And that's one of those things where I would I find that really stressful. You get the condescending mechanic talking to you. What on-road is. I know exactly what it is, And what I did was, I was just so frustrated. I literally grabbed my power, just pulled it back. And I felt completely different. I thought, what on earth was that? What did I do? So being a scientist, I really analysed what I did.
Yes.
So the way to describe it is this: if we feel like the prey, the ones who are weak and vulnerable, it's as if we are like antelopes on the African plain. Our attention has to be outside of us all the time, because the lion could come from any situation. So we are constantly on that alert, and the danger is out there. And that's the situation energetically that we are in when we've lost our power. So the thing is, there isn't actually a lion, but my subconscious believes that it is. It's certainly behaving as if it is. Okay. So if you say to somebody, right, I want you to just forget about that. I want you to just hold your power, concentrate on yourself. It's not going to work, because once we're in that fight or flight mode, it's like putting it under the microscope, and our brain begins to focus on it and analyze it, and then it magnifies it and magnifies it. And as we do that, and I have a way of measuring what our power is through kinesiology. And when you do this, and someone is focusing on the thing that's causing the stress, their power goes down and down and down, and the power goes up and up and up of the thing that they're dealing with. And so it gets like that. It just gets worse and worse, and we get locked into that fight or flight. So the most basic technique of my process is literally you're imagining that you're grabbing the power, and it's like on a ball. It's a ball on a wire between you and the situation, or the person, or whatever it is. And you're imagining that you are dragging it back. This is the pulling. You can't just say, "Oh, come back." It doesn't work. Yeah. You have to imagine that it's a ball on a wire, and you've got to really pull it, and there's loads of resistance, and you've really got to pull, and there's lots of friction. And as you pull it back, because imagining that resistance actually unlocks your mind. It focuses on it, and it pulls it out of the fight or flight. And when you get the power back to you, then your mind suddenly thinks, "Oh, hang on a minute, I've got my power." And then it looks at the situation, and actually it's not that bad after all. I'm allowed to keep my power. I'm allowed to speak up. I'm allowed to XYZ, whatever it is. And so your stress goes down, your confidence goes up, you project a different energy, and you completely change the power dynamic. So that is kind of step one of the whole process. But just that can absolutely change how you're behaving and how people are perceiving you. And when you start to hold your power, even in a situation, in a relationship that has been very negative for a very long time, when you're changing that dynamic, subconsciously the other person picks that up, and they begin to see you as somebody with more power, and they begin to treat you differently. And I've seen it over and over again. I've seen it in intimate relationships. I've seen it with bullies, with domineering colleagues. I've seen it with women who are needing to, say, deal with like a room full of aggressive people questioning them. Yeah. And when they're holding the power in this way, they're giving out a completely different energy, and they're no longer being perceived as you're weak, you're vulnerable, we can take advantage. It becomes, oh, well, actually, this is a powerful woman. Yes. And you don't have to be extrovert or naturally confident to do this. This is the beauty of it, because I myself have always been very, very quiet, very reserved, totally the person at the side of the room playing with my coffee spoon, avoiding the networking. Yeah. Yeah. And the first time I used it consciously, pulled my power, did all the preparation, went into this meeting, I was absolutely astonished, because I was behaving naturally as the confident version of Anne, right? It wasn't me putting on a facade or me trying to be something I wasn't, or pushing through anxiety or struggling. I was simply relaxed, being myself, speaking up, taking part, as an equal in a situation where for the whole previous, 5 decades, I would absolutely have been invisible. So wow. It's phenomenal.
So that's amazing. But back to the car mechanic.
Right. Yes.
Let's go back. There's a few things in what you've said, and my mind is going like, wow. The car mechanic. Yeah. When you present yourself, and I've done this. I'm a horrible person. Okay, I have done this myself. I go into the garage with my car. I was single for a long time, so part of being a single mother is you have to do things for yourself. Like I can change a car wheel. I check the oil on the car. I'm just using the car as an example because you introduced the car thing. But so if you go into a quick fit or wherever the hell you're going in, you do get that very blokey, very. I mean, I've never been in a quick fit, and I've been in a few, and there haven't been any women there, and I suppose it is quite intimidating. So, how you hold yourself? Like, are you teaching people how to hold themselves in those situations so that the other person's perception of them is on a more balanced power?
I'm not talking about body language or anything top level like that. What I would teach, and it's the same going into the garage or going into court or going into a police station because you've got a report to make or whatever it might be, or saying to your partner, I need to say this to you, however it is. If your power is draining away, that's when you clam up. That's when you're anxious, you can't speak up, you feel vulnerable, it doesn't go the way that you want it to. What I teach someone to do is to literally, before the situation, you are pulling in the power and you're teaching your system how to naturally hold your power. So as I said before, women are conditioned to give it away from childhood.
Yeah.
And when I first pulled in my power, it was, oh my God, this feels great. But then I lost it almost immediately because my system had no knowledge of how to hold it. So that day I was doing it again and again and again. And the next day, again and again and again. And it was really hard. But then after 2 weeks, I was holding it for a lot of the time because my body was learning. It's just like, wanting to run. You're not going to run a marathon on day one. You've got to walk around the block on day one. It's literally building this power basis over time. So that's the foundation work. Then when you would have a stressful thing to do, before you go in, you're wanting to be imagining yourself in that situation, and you are going to imagine pulling back the power from the person or the situation or the group of people. And so literally by that, you are telling your subconscious, when I go into that situation, instead of my default of power drains away and I'm immediately weak, I'm telling my subconscious, when I go into that situation, we're actually going to pull in the power.
Yeah.
And this can be quite, we can be quite detailed with this. We can look at where somebody is losing their power. It could be from different parts of the body. And I can teach them how to, kind of energetically reinforce, where the power is draining from. It might be from the throat, it might be from the heart, it might be from the stomach, it might be from the legs. It's all these things. And so the whole point is to get yourself in this resilient power ball, if you like.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter what somebody says. It doesn't matter if they're being aggressive or they're putting you down. You are literally in this strength, this profound strength, so that you are then holding the energy of I am powerful, I am your equal, I am entitled to be treated with respect and consideration.
Yeah.
And the difference in what you project energetically to the people around you is, it's chalk and cheese, right? And it's not body language. You won't be standing any different. You won't be wearing anything any different.
Yeah.
The words you're saying aren't going to be any different, but the energy of you in that place with that person is completely different.
Yes. Amazing. That's amazing. I just want to stick a little comment in here for anybody who's watching this, who was in a dangerous, abusive relationship, because the power dynamic in an abusive relationship is very obvious. The abuser has the power. The abused person doesn't have the power. So if you are looking at doing this work, then you need to be very mindful of the fact that your abuser will retaliate when you start pulling your power back. So that's just a little, little side to say, be careful if you're in an abusive relationship. But the other thing is, if, for example, you've mentioned about going into court, and a court system is a very adversarial situation, and for me, a very negative experience for many people. But there'll be people in here who will so benefit from what you can give them, because in those circumstances, it's actually you are going to help people go in and be in their power, aren't you, when it is a very scary experience?
Very much so. So just to go back to what you just said about being in an abusive situation, what I'm talking about is very, very subtle. So it's not you then going up verbally against somebody because you've got your power. Not like that at all. It's like you will begin to feel more powerful, more safe within yourself, right? So this is not going to antagonize the other person.
Okay.
You are just going, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about suddenly behaving in a no. This is much more subtle. This is you being able to not feel so energetically attacked. You feel more confident, feel less anxious, less stressed, all of that. So you're building this. And of course, if you're in any physical danger, you're not going to do anything in that. But if you're feeling better within yourself, you are building strength, which is then going to serve you for the whole rest of your life. And one thing important to mention here, when you've come out of an abusive relationship, because you are patterned energetically to be there, you don't want those patterns to repeat with your next relationship. You want to retrain your system to hold your power always from day one. And when you have that power reprogrammed into your system, you're going to be attracting a different kind of person to have an intimate relationship with, because they're not going to be attracted to, this is somebody who has no power and has an energy of she's been abused on her, no matter what she's trying to, have. This is about freeing yourself from what has happened to you and making yourself so much within your authentic female power which when it's properly activated, properly, you know what to do with it, that is then going to attract somebody who wants that, who wants a woman who is in her power and is going to treat her with respect and consideration and love.
That is a really interesting point, actually, Anne, because a lot of people do go from toxic relationship to toxic relationship, not because of who they are, but because there are people out there who will hone in on that vulnerability.
Right. It's like the energy. So it's not about what we believe about ourselves. It's not about who we are, our character, our value. That's nothing to do with that. But if our energy is so damaged because our power has been pulled away from us, maybe right from childhood, and then gone into an abusive relationship, and an abusive marriage, another abusive relationship, that energy pattern is just going to be intrinsically within you. It's not you. It's just what's happened to your energy field.
Yes.
So repairing that, regenerating it, and putting you in control of it, that's what I do. And this is the thing, all the belief work, all the reprogramming, and I spent, I don't know how many years, 15 years working on all of that stuff. It wasn't until I went beneath that and realized what needed to be done and worked out how to do it that I sorted out that bit of my own healing.
Yes.
And that's when I could then react in a completely different way to those stressful situations and that kind of person.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on this evening. Can you please show everybody your book again, please? And tell us what it's called.
Oh, it's called Pull Back Your Power.
And where can we get it?
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Audible, the audio version.
Oh, there's posh.
Yes. Yeah, Audible. And so if you get the book, it comes with an online section with I don't know, I think it's about 6 audio reprogramming meditations where you can start doing this work for yourself. So this is something that everybody is going to find this financially accessible. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
If you want to go deeper, then absolutely see that I have my programs, I have my one-to-one, but the whole thing is that this being able to hold your power regardless of what you've been through and regardless of where you need to perform well in your life. This is something that every single woman needs.
I love it. Absolutely fascinating. I love it. Thank you so much. When we're done on here, can you please put your website details in the comments on Facebook? That would be amazing. And then I can copy them across to YouTube. Dr. Anne Whitehouse, thank you so much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody who's watching now, watching live. Please say hello in the comments. And thank you for everybody else who's watching. That's absolutely amazing. And you can find me at repearson.com. Be Kind, No Excuses. I'm on Amazon. It's the only book I've ever written. So thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Take care.